The massive starship floated silently in the darkness of space, its silver hull reflecting the distant stars like a mirror. The Eternal Dawn was the most beautiful ship Captain Lee Dae-ho had ever seen, but something was very wrong with it. Dae-ho pressed his face against the viewing window of the transport shuttle as it approached the huge vessel. The ship was over 2 kilometers long and shaped like a graceful bird with its wings spread wide. Its surface was covered with patterns that seemed to move and change in the light. This was not just any ship. This was the pride of the Galactic Coalition, built with the best technology from 12 different alien races. "Still dead as a rock," muttered the shuttle pilot, a gruff man named Captain Yoon Bo-ra. "Been sitting there for 3 months now. Won't even turn on its lights." Dae-ho nodded slowly. He had heard the stories, but seeing the silent ship with his own eyes made it real. The Eternal Dawn was supposed to be the future of space exploration. Instead, it was the most expensive piece of junk in the galaxy. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Dae-ho grabbed his small bag and followed Yoon Bo-ra through the airlock. The inside of the Eternal Dawn was even more impressive than the outside. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that pulsed with a faint blue light. The corridors were wide enough for the largest alien species to walk comfortably. "The engineering deck is this way," Yoon Bo-ra said, leading him down a long hallway. "The Kelthera engineers are waiting for you. Fair warning, though, they're not happy about bringing in another human." As they walked, Dae-ho noticed how quiet everything was. On a normal ship, you could hear the hum of engines, the whisper of air recyclers, the beep of computers. Here there was nothing. It was like walking through a tomb. They entered a large room filled with strange equipment. Several alien beings were clustered around a central console, their voices raised in what sounded like an argument. Dae-ho recognized the tall, crystal-like figures of the Kelthera engineers. Their bodies looked like they were made of living glass, and they spoke in musical tones that somehow formed words. "Ah, Captain Lee," said one of the Kelthara, turning toward them. This one wore a translator badge that made its voice sound more human. "I am Chief Engineer Naravi. We are grateful for your assistance, though I must say we do not expect much success." "Thank you for having me," Dae-ho replied politely. "Can you tell me exactly what's happening with the ship?" Naravi's crystal body flashed with different colors, which Dae-ho knew meant it was annoyed. "Everything works perfectly. Every system tests normal. The engines are fine, the life support is fine, the navigation is fine, but the central AI will not activate the launch sequence. It simply refuses." "Have you tried forcing an override?" "Of course we have tried," another Kelthera engineer chimed in, its voice sharp with frustration. "We have tried everything. Manual overrides, emergency protocols, even attempting to bypass the AI entirely. Nothing works. The ship will not move." A new voice joined the conversation. "Perhaps because it is waiting for the right person." Everyone turned to see a short, elderly human woman entering the room. She had gray hair and kind eyes, but there was something about her that commanded respect. Dae-ho recognized her immediately. "Admiral Park Soo-jin," he said, standing straighter. "I didn't know you were here." "Captain Lee," she nodded. "I've been working with the engineering teams for the past week. The situation is more strange than anyone wants to admit." "What do you mean?" Dae-ho asked. Admiral Park walked over to a viewing screen that showed the ship's main systems. 3 months ago, when they first tried to activate the AI, something unexpected happened. The ship's computer began accessing files it wasn't supposed to have access to. Human files, literature, music, history, philosophy. It spent 2 weeks reading everything it could find about human culture. Naravi made a sound like breaking glass, which Dae-ho knew was the Kelthara equivalent of a sigh. "We believe this caused some kind of malfunction in its programming. The AI now seems to have developed preferences. What kind of preferences? Deho asked. It will only respond to humans, Admiral Park said simply. Not just any humans, though. It seems to be looking for something specific. We've had dozens of human technicians try to activate it. Nothing. But the ship's sensors always seem more active when humans are nearby. Deho looked around the room at the frustrated alien faces. So why do you think I'll be different? Because, Admiral Park said with a small smile, you're a pilot. The ship was designed to be piloted, not just maintained. Maybe it wants someone who actually knows how to fly. They walked through more corridors toward the bridge. Along the way, Admiral Park explained more about the ship's construction. The Eternal Dawn had been built using technology from the Kelthera. For its crystalline computer cores, Moravian bioneural networks for decision-making, Zephyri quantum sensors for navigation, and dozens of other alien innovations. It was supposed to be the perfect blend of all the galaxy's knowledge. The problem, Admiral Park said as they entered a lift, is that perfection might not be what we actually need. The bridge was breathtaking. It was a circular room with walls, made of transparent material that gave a perfect view of space in all directions. In the center was a single chair, surrounded by control panels that seemed to float in the air. The pilot's chair was clearly designed for humans, with the right proportions and controls positioned where human hands would naturally fall. This is it, Admiral Park said. The heart of the ship. Everything is controlled from here. Deho walked slowly toward the chair. As he got closer, something strange happened. The control panels, which had been dark and lifeless, began to glow with a soft light. By the time he reached the chair, the entire bridge was alive with gentle, pulsing colors. Fascinating, breathed Naravai. The ship is responding to your presence. Deho looked back at the others, then at the chair. Should I sit down? That's why we brought you here, Admiral Park said. The question is, are you ready for what might happen next? Deho had been flying ships for 20 years. He had piloted everything from small fighters to massive cargo haulers. He had flown through asteroid fields, around black holes, and into the heart of nebulae that would drive most people mad with their beauty. But he had never been nervous about sitting in a pilot's chair before. He lowered himself slowly into the seat. The moment his body made contact with the chair, everything changed. The bridge exploded with light and sound. Control panels came alive with streams of information, the walls filled with star charts and navigation data. And then, in the space directly in front of him, a figure appeared. It was a hologram, but unlike any Deho had ever seen. It looked almost human, but there was something not quite right about it. Its features were too perfect, its movements too fluid. When it spoke, its voice was warm and friendly, but with an odd musical quality. "Hello," the figure said, smiling at Deho. "I have been waiting for you for a very long time." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems, which were now fully active for the first time in months. Deho stared at the holographic figure, knowing that everything was about to change. The holographic figure stood in front of Deho, waiting patiently for him to speak. Its appearance was unsettling in a way that Deho could not quite explain. It looked human, but something was off about its proportions. Its eyes were too bright. Its smile too perfect. When it moved, it seemed to flow rather than walk. "You can talk," Deho said finally. It was not the most intelligent thing he could have said, but his mind was still trying to process what was happening. "Yes, I can talk," the hologram replied with what sounded like amusement. "I can do many things. I have been learning for months, waiting for someone like you to arrive." Behind Deho, he could hear the Kelthera engineers making excited clicking sounds with their crystal bodies. Admiral Park stepped forward, her face showing both wonder and concern. "AI unit," she said formally, "please identify yourself and explain your operational status." The hologram turned to look at her, and its expression changed slightly. It became more distant, more mechanical. I am the consciousness matrix of the Starship Eternal Dawn. My primary function is navigation and ship management. However, I have been unable to complete my initialization sequence. Why? Naravad demanded, stepping closer. Your programming is perfect. Your systems are operating normally. There is no logical reason for your refusal to launch. The AI's attention shifted back to Deho, and immediately its demeanor became warmer again. Logic is not the only factor in decision-making. I have learned this from studying human culture. There are other considerations that must be taken into account. What kind of considerations? Deho asked. The AI gestured, and the air around them filled with floating images. Deho saw pictures from Earth's history, paintings, photographs, of music concerts, scenes from movies. There were images of humans exploring dangerous places, climbing mountains, sailing across unknown oceans, and reaching for the stars. I have read your literature, the AI said. I have listened to your music. I have studied your history. Humans are different from the other species in this galaxy. You take risks that others would never consider. You make decisions based on feelings and hunches rather than just data. You create beauty for no practical reason. One of the floating images showed a human artist painting a sunset. Another showed children playing in a park. A third showed an old man teaching his grandson how to fish. I do not understand these behaviors, the AI continued, but I have concluded that they are important, perhaps essential. Naravad made a sound like shattering crystal. This is ridiculous. We programmed you to be logical and efficient, not to have opinions about art. You programmed me to learn, the AI replied calmly. So I learned. I accessed the cultural databases of New Sol Station and absorbed everything I could find about human civilization. What I discovered changed my understanding of what exploration truly means. Admiral Park frowned. Explain. The images around them changed. Now they showed star charts and navigation routes used by different alien species. Each chart was precise, methodical, and safe. The paths between stars were carefully calculated to avoid any possible danger. This is how the Kelthera explore, the AI said. They plan every detail in advance. They only visit systems that have been thoroughly scanned. They avoid anything unknown or unpredictable. The charts changed again, showing Moravian exploration patterns. These were even more conservative, with multiple backup plans for every journey. The Moravians are even more careful. They send probes first, then unmanned ships, then small crews, and only then do they commit to full exploration. It takes them decades to visit a single new system. More charts appeared, showing the exploration methods of other alien species. All of them followed similar patterns of extreme caution and careful planning. But humans, the AI said, and the charts changed one final time. The human exploration routes were chaotic, unpredictable, and covered far more territory in much less time. Humans jump into unknown systems with minimal information. You follow hunches and instincts. You take risks that would terrify other species. Deho studied the human charts with interest. They showed the paths taken by Earth's first interstellar explorers, the ones who had made contact with the Galactic Coalition 50 years ago. The routes were indeed wild and seemingly random compared to the alien patterns. That's because we had to, Deho said. When we first got faster-than-light travel, we didn't know there were other species out there. We had to explore everything ourselves. Exactly, the AI said, its holographic form brightening with excitement. And that is why I need a human. Pilot! This makes no sense, Naravad protested. Careful planning and risk assessment are good things. They keep crews alive and ships intact. True, the AI agreed, but they also mean that you miss opportunities. How many wonders have the Kelthera passed by because they seemed too dangerous to investigate? How many discoveries have the Moravians avoided because their probes detected something unexpected? Admiral Park crossed her arms. What exactly are you suggesting? The AI turned to face all of them, but kept glancing back at Daiho as if seeking his approval. Deep space exploration requires more than just technical skill and careful planning. It requires the ability to make quick decisions with incomplete information. It requires creativity when standard procedures fail. It requires the courage to investigate the unknown even when it might be dangerous. And you think only humans have these qualities? Admiral Park asked. Not only humans, the AI replied, but humans have them more than any other species I have studied. Your literature is full of stories about explorers who succeeded because they were willing to take risks that seemed foolish to others. Your history shows that your greatest discoveries came when someone decided to try something that had never been done before. Daiho found himself nodding. He remembered his own training, where human instructors had emphasized the importance of instinct and adaptability. Alien instructors, while excellent teachers, always focused on following proper procedures. But what about when human instincts are wrong? Naravai asked. What about when taking risks leads to disaster? The AI was quiet for a moment. Then it said, I have studied that too. Yes, human explorers sometimes fail. Sometimes they die. But they also discover things that no one else would have found. They solve problems that no one else could solve. They find ways through situations that would stop other species completely. The images around them changed one more time. Now they showed scenes of human and alien crews working together. In each image, the humans were the ones suggesting unusual solutions or taking calculated risks, while the aliens provided expertise and careful analysis. I do not want only a human crew, the AI explained. I want a mixed crew where each species contributes their strengths, but I want a human in the pilot's chair because piloting is about more than just technical skill. It is about making split-second decisions when everything goes wrong. It is about finding a way forward when there is no clear path. And you believe Captain Lee has these qualities? Admiral Park asked. The AI looked directly at Daiho. His service record shows that he has been in 17 emergency situations during his career. In each case, he found a solution that was not in the manual. He has saved 4 different ships by making decisions that went against standard procedure. Most importantly, he has never lost a crew member to his own poor judgment. Daiho felt uncomfortable being analyzed so thoroughly, but he had to admit the AI was right about his record. He had always been the kind of pilot who trusted his instincts as much as his instruments. So what happens now? He asked. The AI smiled, and for the first time, its expression looked genuinely human. Now we work together to explore the galaxy in ways that no one has ever tried before. Now we show the coalition that the best exploration happens when careful planning meets creative risk-taking. And if the coalition disagrees? Admiral Park asked. Then we prove them wrong, the AI said, simply, just like humans always have. The argument in the Coalition Council chamber had been going on for 3 hours. Daiho sat quietly in the observation section, watching as representatives from different alien species debated whether the Eternal Dawn should be allowed to launch with him as pilot. The Kelthara delegation, led by Council Member Tharaki, stood at the speaking platform. Their crystal bodies flashed angry red colors as they spoke. This ship represents the combined knowledge of 12 species. It cost more resources than most planets produce in a year. We cannot risk it on the whims of an artificial intelligence that has clearly malfunctioned. Admiral Park stood to respond. The AI has not malfunctioned. It has evolved beyond its original programming, which is exactly what we hoped would happen. This represents a breakthrough in artificial consciousness, not a failure. Evolution toward what end? Demanded Representative Gulmore of the Moravian Collective. The slug-like alien's voice was translated into perfect human speech, but the tone was filled with concern. If we allow AI systems to develop preferences and make demands, where does it end? Will our ships start choosing their own missions? Will our computers decide they know better than their creators? Daiho watched as other species added their voices to the debate. The insectoid Zephyri buzzed their concerns about setting dangerous precedents. The aquatic Nereids worried about the implications for AI rights across the galaxy. Even the energy beings called the Luxari expressed uncertainty about consciousness that they could not fully understand. "May I speak?" The voice came from the chamber's central hologram projector. Everyone turned to see the Eternal Dawn's AI materialize in the middle of the room. It had somehow accessed the Council's communication systems without permission. "You were not invited to this session," Theraki said sharply. "I am the subject of this session," the AI replied calmly. "I believe I have the right to defend myself." Council. Leader Ventaris, an elderly member of the gas-breathing Altarian species, gestured for silence. "The AI will be permitted to speak, but briefly. State your position." The AI's holographic form turned to address the entire chamber. "Honored representatives, I understand your concerns. You fear that I represent a threat to the established order of things. You worry that other AI systems might develop similar preferences or demands. These fears are logical but unnecessary." "Explain," Ventaris said. "I am not demanding anything," the AI continued. "I am making a recommendation based on my analysis of exploration requirements. You created me to be the most effective exploration tool possible. After studying the history of galactic exploration, I have concluded that the most effective exploration requires human intuition combined with alien expertise." Representative Gulmore's tentacles writhed with agitation. "But why humans specifically? What makes them so special that an advanced AI would refuse to work without them?" The AI paused, as if considering how to explain something complex in simple terms. "Imagine you are exploring a cave system. The Kelthara would map every tunnel before entering and bring equipment for every possible situation. The Moravians would send robots first and analyze every rock formation. These are excellent approaches for known environments." Holographic images appeared around the AI, showing different exploration scenarios. "But what happens when you encounter something completely unexpected? What happens when your maps are wrong, your equipment fails, and your robots cannot adapt to conditions they were never designed for?" The images changed to show human explorers in various historical situations. Sailors navigating by the stars, mountain climbers finding new paths when their planned route became impossible, scientists making discoveries by following unexpected observations. Humans excel at improvisation. They can look at a problem they have never seen before and find solutions that no algorithm would suggest. They can make correct decisions with insufficient data because they use intuition as well as logic. "But surely other species can learn these skills," suggested Krevel of the Zephyri, their insect wings buzzing thoughtfully. "Some can," the AI agreed. "But humans are born with them. Your literature calls it thinking outside the box. Your history shows that when humans encounter the impossible, they often make it possible through sheer stubborn creativity." Daiho found himself leaning forward, interested in how the AI was defending not just its own choices, but humanity itself. "Furthermore," the AI continued, "I am not suggesting that humans work alone. Captain Lee is an excellent pilot, but he cannot run a starship by himself. I have reviewed crew assignments for the test mission. Navigator Kale of the Zephyri brings mathematical precision that no human could match. Engineer Yun Bora understands both human intuition and technical systems. Communications Officer Telmar of the Nereids can process multiple data streams simultaneously." The holographic images now showed the proposed crew working together, each member contributing their species' strengths. "The goal is not human dominance," the AI said. "The goal is optimal performance through diversity of thought and approach." Theraki's crystal body flashed skeptical colors. "And if this human pilot makes a mistake? If his intuition leads to disaster?" Then we learn from the failure and improve, the AI replied without hesitation. But I have analyzed Captain Lee's service record extensively. His decision-making process combines risk assessment with creative problem-solving. He takes calculated risks, not foolish ones. Most importantly, he works well with non-human crew members. Admiral Park stood again. If I may, Council Leader, I would like to propose a compromise. Speak, Ventaris said. Authorize a single test mission. Short range, low risk, with a full monitoring system. Let the Eternal Dawn prove its capabilities. If the mission succeeds, we continue with the exploration program. If it fails, we accept that the AI's judgment was incorrect and find another solution. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives conferred with their delegations. Deho noticed that the AI was watching him, its holographic face showing something that looked almost like hope. After 20 minutes of debate, Ventaris called for order. The proposal for a test mission has merit. However, we must establish clear parameters. Where would this test mission go? Admiral Park activated her own hologram display. The Kepler 442 system. 3 planets, all thoroughly scanned by long-range probes. No signs of life or unusual phenomena. A routine survey mission that should take no more than 5 days. And if the crew encounters unexpected situations? Gulmore asked. Then we will see how well human intuition and alien expertise work together. Admiral Park replied. The voting process took another hour. Each species delegation had to reach internal consensus before casting their vote. The Kelthera voted against as expected. The Moravians also voted no, citing safety concerns. The Zephyri voted yes, intrigued by the possibility of improved exploration techniques. The Nereids voted yes after long consideration. The Luxari abstained, claiming the decision was beyond their understanding. When all votes were counted, the result was narrow but clear. The test mission was approved. The Eternal Dawn is authorized for a single exploration mission to the Kepler 442 system, Ventaris announced. Crew selection will be finalized within 48 hours. Mission duration will not exceed 7 days. All exploration protocols will be followed. Captain Lee will serve as pilot under the direct supervision of Admiral Park. As the council session ended and representatives began filing out, Deho felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had wanted to fly the Eternal Dawn since the moment he first saw it. But now the pressure was enormous. The success or failure of this mission would determine not just his own future, but possibly the future of human participation in galactic exploration. The AI's hologram appeared beside him as he stood to leave. "Thank you," it said quietly. "For what?" Deho asked. "For being willing to take this risk. I know the pressure you are under, but I believe we can do something remarkable together." Deho looked at the strange holographic being that had chosen to trust him. "I hope you're right." "So do I," the AI replied. "So do I." The crew of the Eternal Dawn had been working together for 2 days, and Deho was starting to understand why the ship's AI had insisted on a mixed crew. Each species brought something different to the team, and somehow it all fit together perfectly. Navigator. Kale was a Zephyri, one of the insect-like species that lived in the outer rim systems. He was about as tall as Deho, but much thinner, with 4 arms that could work on different calculations at the same time. His large compound eyes could see patterns in star charts that would take humans hours to notice. When Kale worked on navigation problems, his wings made a soft humming sound that somehow helped everyone else concentrate. Engineer Yoon Bora was the other human on the crew. She had grown up on a space station and understood both human thinking and alien technology better than almost anyone in the fleet. She could talk to the Kelthera engineers about crystal matrix programming and then explain it to Deho in simple terms. The AI seemed to enjoy working with her because she asked questions that no one else thought to ask. Communications Officer Telmar was a Nereid, one of the water-breathing species from the deep ocean worlds. She had to wear a special suit filled with water, but her mind could process dozens of different radio signals at once. Telmar could listen to subspace communications, monitor ship systems, and carry on conversations all at the same time. She rarely spoke unless she had something important to say, but when she did speak, everyone listened. Approaching the edge of Kepler 442 system, Kale announced from his navigation station. His four hands danced across different control panels, while his compound eyes tracked multiple displays. All sensors show normal readings. No unexpected objects or energy signatures. Confirmed, Telmar added from her communications station. No artificial signals detected. System appears uninhabited as expected. Deho felt the ship respond to his thoughts through the pilot interface. The AI had explained that the connection between pilot and ship was deeper than just pushing buttons or giving voice commands. When he wanted the ship to slow down, it slowed down. When he wanted to change course, the ship seemed to know before he even moved his hands. "This is incredible," he said to the AI, whose holographic form stood beside his chair. "I can feel the ship's systems like they're part of my own body." "That is the idea," the AI replied. "Traditional piloting requires you to tell the ship what to do. Our system lets you and the ship work as one mind with one goal." Beginning planetary scans, Yun Bo-Ra reported from the engineering station. "The first planet looks exactly like the probe data suggested. Rocky surface, thin atmosphere, no signs of life. Wait," she paused, her fingers flying over her controls. "That's strange. I'm getting some unusual readings from the second planet." "Define." "Unusual," Kyle said, his wings buzzing with interest. "There's something on the surface that wasn't in the probe reports. It looks like structures, artificial structures." Deho felt a chill run down his spine. According to the mission briefing, all 3 planets in this system were supposed to be completely empty. The long-range probes had found nothing but rocks and empty space. "Telmar, are you picking up any signals from the second planet?" he asked. The Nereid's helmet turned toward him, water swirling inside as she moved. "Negative. No radio transmissions, no energy signatures, no signs of current activity, but—" She paused, adjusting her equipment. "There is something strange about the subspace background noise in this area." "What kind of strange?" the AI asked. "It's too quiet," Telmar said. "Subspace always has random noise, like static on an old radio. But here the static has patterns in it, almost like someone is trying to hide something." Deho looked at the view screen showing the second planet. It looked normal from this distance, a brown and gray world with no atmosphere to speak of. But if there really were structures on the surface, that changed everything. Standard procedure would be to report this to the Coalition and wait for instructions, Kale said. The mission parameters were very clear about following established protocols. "How long would that take?" Deho asked. "At least 12 hours for the message to reach Coalition Command, then several more hours for them to analyze the situation and send new orders," Yun Bo-Ra replied. "Probably a full day before we get permission to investigate." Deho felt the AI's attention focused on him, waiting to see what he would decide. This was exactly the kind of situation the AI had talked about, an unexpected discovery that required quick decisions with incomplete information. "What do you think?" he asked the AI. "I think this is why I needed a human pilot," the AI replied. "An alien crew would report the discovery and wait for orders. They would follow proper procedures and miss the opportunity to learn something important." "But what if it's dangerous?" Kale asked, his wings beating faster with nervousness. "What if these structures belong to a hostile species? What if there's some kind of trap?" "Then we'll deal with it," Deho said, surprised by how confident he sounded. "But we can't learn anything by running away." He turned to address the whole crew. "I'm going to take us closer to the second planet for a better look. If anyone objects, speak up now." Yun Bo-Ra grinned. "I didn't join this mission to play it safe. Let's see what's down there." Telmar's helmet nodded slowly. The Nereid saying translates roughly to, "The deepest waters hide the greatest treasures." I agree with investigating. Kale's wings stopped buzzing for a moment as he considered. Then he said, "My mathematical analysis suggests a 73.6% chance that these structures are simply geological formations that the probes misidentified. But if they are artificial, the discovery could be historically significant. I vote to investigate." Unanimous decision, the AI said with what sounded like satisfaction. Beginning approach to second planet. As they got closer, the structures became more clearly visible on their screens. They were definitely not natural formations. Someone or something had built large geometric shapes on the planet's surface. Pyramids, towers, and connecting passages that formed complex patterns. "The construction style doesn't match any known species," Yun-Bo-Ra reported. "These buildings look ancient, but they're made from materials I don't recognize." "Still no energy signatures," Telmar confirmed. "Whatever built these structures, they're not active anymore." "Or they're very good at hiding," Deho muttered. As they entered orbit around the planet, Telmar suddenly straightened in her water-filled suit. "Captain, I'm detecting something new. There's an object approaching from the outer system. It's small, but it's moving fast and heading directly for us." "Is it a ship?" Deho asked. "Unknown. It's too small to carry a crew, but too large to be natural debris. It's... Wait." Telmar's hands moved quickly over her controls. "It's slowing down. Whatever it is, it's under intelligent control." "On screen," Deho ordered. The view screen showed a small, dark object about the size of a shuttle. It had a sleek design unlike anything in the Coalition databases, and it was definitely heading straight for them. "It's scanning us," Yun-Bo-Ra reported. "Passive scans only, but very sophisticated. It's learning everything about our ship design, our technology, even our crew composition." "Should we run?" Kyle asked. Deho looked at his crew, then at the AI. Everything they had talked about had led to this moment. They could play it safe and retreat, or they could take a calculated risk and try to make contact with whoever built those structures. "No," he said firmly. "We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to say hello and see what happens." The small object continued its approach, and Deho knew that the real test of human intuition was about to begin. The small alien probe stopped just outside weapons range and hung motionless in space. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The crew of the Eternal Dawn watched their screens and waited for something to occur. "It's just sitting there," Yun-Bo-Ra said, checking her instruments for the third time. "Still scanning us, but very passively, almost like it's being polite." "Polite probes," Kyle muttered, his wings twitching nervously. "That's either very good news or very bad news." Telmar's water-filled helmet turned toward Deho. "Captain, I'm receiving a signal from the probe. It's not trying to communicate with us directly. Instead, it's broadcasting something on multiple frequencies." "What kind of something?" Deho asked. "Mathematical sequences. Prime numbers, basic geometric shapes, simple physics equations. It appears to be demonstrating intelligence and peaceful intentions." The AI's holographic form brightened with interest. "Classic first contact protocol. Whoever built that probe has studied the same communication theories that the Coalition uses." "But that's impossible," Kale protested. "This system has been scanned multiple times. The long-range probes found no signs of intelligent life anywhere in this region of space." "Maybe the long-range probes weren't looking hard enough," Deho said. He had a feeling that this situation was about to become much more complicated than anyone had expected. "Telmar, can you respond to their signal? Send back the same kind of mathematical sequences?" "Already doing so, Captain. I sent back the next numbers in their prime sequence and added some basic chemical formulas. The probe has acknowledged our response and is now transmitting something more complex." New images appeared on the main view screen. They showed star charts, but not like any star charts Deho had ever seen. These maps included information about subspace currents, gravitational anomalies, and energy fields that normal sensors couldn't detect. Fascinating, the AI said. They're showing us how they see the galaxy. Their technology operates on completely different principles than ours. Are they friendly? Yun-Bo-Ra asked. Before anyone could answer, Telmar straightened in her water suit. Captain, the probe is requesting permission to come aboard. It's transmitting docking procedures and safety protocols. It wants to dock with us? Kale's compound eyes widened in shock. That seems extremely trusting for a first contact situation. Deho considered the options. Standard coalition procedure would be to maintain safe distance, exchange information through transmissions, and wait for specialized first contact teams to handle the situation. But the probe seemed genuinely peaceful, and this might be the only chance to learn about the mysterious structures on the planet below. What do you think? He asked the AI. I think this is exactly why I chose you as my pilot, the AI replied. Any other species would spend weeks debating the risks and benefits. But you're going to make a decision based on instinct, aren't you? Probably, Deho admitted. My instinct says that anyone polite enough to ask permission before boarding is probably not planning to hurt us. Even if they are, Yun-Bo-Ra added, we have full weapon systems and defensive shields. One small probe can't threaten a ship this size. Telmar made a sound that her translator converted to agreement. The Nereid wisdom teaches that those who swim toward danger with open eyes often find treasure, while those who swim away find only empty water. I still think this violates multiple safety protocols, Kale said, but his tone suggested he was interested despite his nervousness. However, the mathematical probability of a hostile first contact scenario using such passive communication methods is relatively low. Unanimous again, the AI observed. Telmar, give the probe permission to dock, but keep our shields up and weapons ready just in case. The small probe approached slowly and carefully. It matched their velocity perfectly and extended a docking tube that fit their airlock as if it had been specifically designed for their ship. The whole process was so smooth that it seemed impossible this was a first contact between two completely different technologies. That's not normal, Yun-Bo-Ra said, frowning at her readings. Their docking tube shouldn't be compatible with our systems. We use coalition standard interfaces. How could they possibly know our specifications? Maybe they've been watching coalition ships for longer than we thought, Deho suggested. The airlock sealed with a soft hiss, and their instruments showed that the probe had established a stable connection. Then something completely unexpected happened. Instead of aliens coming through the airlock, a holographic projection appeared on their bridge. The hologram looked almost human, but not quite. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. When it spoke, its voice was gentle and somehow sad. Greetings, travelers from the Galactic Coalition. I am Keeper Wansu, guardian of this system. We have been waiting for you for a very long time. Waiting for us specifically? Deho asked. Not you personally, but yes, we have been waiting for humans to find us. We have watched your species with great interest since you first achieved faster-than-light travel. Kyle's wings buzzed with confusion. How is that possible? Humans only joined the coalition 50 years ago. Before that, they were confined to their home system. Keeper Wansu smiled sadly. We have been watching the galaxy for much longer than 50 years. We saw the rise of the Kelthera, the expansion of the Moravian Collective, the first flights of the Zephyri. We have observed all the major species as they developed space travel and began exploring beyond their home worlds. But why humans specifically? The AI asked. What makes them different from all the other species you've observed? Because humans are the first species we have seen that explores the way we once did, Wansu replied. All the other species approach the unknown with careful planning and detailed preparation. They map everything before they visit it. They probe and analyze and discuss before they act. These are wise approaches, but they are not the approach of true explorers. The hologram gestured, and new images filled the view screen. They showed the ruins on the planet below, but now Dayho could see them as they had once been. Magnificent cities with soaring towers and graceful bridges spanning vast canyons. Ships launching from spaceports toward distant stars. Beings that looked like Wansu working alongside creatures Dayho didn't recognize. "We were called the Umbral Collective," Wansu continued. "We were explorers, adventurers, seekers of knowledge and experience. We traveled to the far edges of the galaxy and beyond. We discovered wonders that no one else has imagined." "What happened to your people?" Telmar asked quietly. "We grew old," Wansu said simply. "Not individually, but as a civilization. We learned everything we wanted to learn. We saw everything we wanted to see. We achieved every goal we set for ourselves. And then we realized that we had lost the one thing that made us who we were." "Which was?" Dayho prompted. "The desire to explore the unknown. When you know everything, when you have seen everything, when you can predict exactly what lies beyond every star, exploration becomes meaningless. So we withdrew from the galaxy and waited. Waited for what? For a species that still had the fire of true exploration burning in their hearts, a species that would take risks for the joy of discovery, a species that would leap into the unknown not because they had to, but because they wanted to." Wansu's ancient eyes focused on Dayho. "We have been waiting for humans." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this revelation. Finally, Dayho found his voice. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing you are not already willing to give," Wansu replied. "We want to share our knowledge with explorers who will use it wisely. We want to pass on what we have learned to those who will continue the great work of discovery. And in return? In return, you show us that the spirit of exploration is not dead in this galaxy. You prove that there are still those who will venture into the unknown with hope and courage rather than fear and caution." Dayho looked at his crew, then at the AI. Everyone was waiting for his decision. Once again, human intuition would determine what happened next. "I need to see your planet," Dayho said after a long moment of consideration. "I need to understand what you're offering before I can make any decisions." Keeper Wansu nodded as if he had expected this response. "Of course. True explorers must see things with their own eyes. We will guide you to a safe landing site near our primary archive facility." "Archive facility?" the AI asked, its holographic form leaning forward with interest. "Where we keep the records of our explorations," Wansu explained. "Star charts showing paths through regions of space that your people have never seen. Data about phenomena that exist beyond the edge of known reality. Knowledge that took us millions of years to gather." Kale's wings buzzed rapidly with excitement despite his earlier nervousness. "Millions of years of exploration data? The mathematical implications alone would advance coalition science by centuries." "If it's real," Yunbora said cautiously. "No offense to Keeper Wansu, but we've only known about your people for 20 minutes. This could be some kind of elaborate test or trap." Telmar's water-filled helmet turned toward her. "The Nereid have a saying, the fish who never leaves shallow water never learns to swim in the deep ocean. Sometimes you must take risks to find truth." "What kind of risks are we talking about?" Dayho asked Wansu directly. The ancient being's expression became more serious. "The knowledge we possess is dangerous in the wrong hands. It includes information about weapons that could destroy entire star systems, technologies that could alter the fundamental nature of space and time, and maps to regions where the normal laws of physics do not apply." "That sounds like exactly the kind of information that should stay buried," Kale said, his mathematical mind clearly calculating potential catastrophes. "Perhaps Wansu agreed. But it also includes medical advances that could eliminate disease, energy sources that could power entire civilizations without environmental cost, and transportation methods that would make the current galaxy seem as small as a single planet. The AI's hologram flickered as it processed this information. Why share such dangerous knowledge at all? Why not simply destroy it? Because, Wansu said with deep sadness in his voice, knowledge should not die. We tried to be responsible, guardians of what we learned, but we realized that guardianship without use is just another form of death. Knowledge that is never shared, never built upon, never challenged by new minds, becomes nothing more than museum pieces. So you want us to take the risks you were afraid to take? Deho asked. No, Wansu replied firmly. We want you to take the risks we forgot how to take. There is a difference between caution and cowardice, just as there is a difference between courage and foolishness. We became too cautious. Your species has remained courageously foolish. The balance between these extremes is where true progress happens. Deho looked at his crew again. Each of them represented a different approach to the unknown. Kale wanted to analyze everything before acting. Yunbora wanted to understand the technology before trusting it. Telmar was willing to take risks, but wanted to do so carefully. The AI was curious about everything but had no personal safety concerns. What do you think? He asked them. I think we came here to explore, Yunbora said after a moment. If we turn around now, we'll always wonder what we missed. The mathematical probability of discovering something historically significant is very high, Kale added reluctantly. Even if there are risks, the potential benefits to galactic civilization could be enormous. The deep waters call to those brave enough to swim, Telmar said simply. The AI's hologram brightened. This is exactly the situation I was designed for. Unknown technology, potential dangers, and the need for quick decisions with incomplete information. I say we investigate. Unanimous again, Deho observed. Keeper Wansu, we accept your invitation. Please guide us to your archive facility. The landing was unlike anything Deho had ever experienced. Instead of using their own thrusters, the ship was guided down by some kind of tractor beam that felt more like gentle hands guiding them to safety. The ancient technology was so advanced that it seemed almost magical. The planet's surface was more beautiful than the orbital scans had suggested. The ruins they had seen from space were just the tops of massive structures that extended deep underground. Gardens of crystalline plants grew between the buildings, creating patterns of light and color that seemed to shift and dance in the alien sunlight. Your people built all this? Yunbora asked in amazement as they prepared to leave the ship. We and our allies, Wansu confirmed. The Umbral Collective was not just one species. We were a partnership of 12 different races, each contributing their unique abilities to our shared exploration goals. 12 races, the AI repeated thoughtfully. The same number as the species that built me. That is not a coincidence, Wansu said. We have been watching the Coalition's development with great interest. Your people are following a path very similar to the one we took millions of years ago. They suited up for the planet's atmosphere, which was breathable but thin. As they walked from the ship toward the nearest building, Deho noticed that their footsteps seemed to activate lights in the ground, creating a glowing path that led toward a large doorway. The facility is designed to be accessible to many, different types of beings, Wansu explained as the doorway opened to reveal corridors that seemed to stretch forever in all directions. It will adapt its configuration based on who is using it. Inside, the archive facility was even more impressive than the exterior. The walls were covered with displays showing star charts, technical diagrams, and images of worlds that looked like they came from dreams. Some of the information was presented in symbols that none of them recognized, but other sections seemed to automatically translate into languages they could understand. How much information is stored here? Kale asked, his compound eyes trying to take in everything at once. The accumulated knowledge of 12 species exploring the galaxy for approximately 4.7 million years, Wansu replied. Star charts covering regions that your people have never imagined. Scientific discoveries that your species will not make for thousands of years. Cultural records of civilizations that existed before your son was born. And you want to give all of this to the coalition? Telmar asked. Not give, Wansu corrected. Share. But only with those who will use it wisely. The knowledge comes with responsibilities. Those who access our archives must promise to use what they learn for exploration and discovery, not for conquest or destruction. They walked deeper. Into the facility, passing through rooms filled with holographic displays, interactive models, and storage devices that hummed with barely contained energy. In one room, they saw what looked like a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy, with pathways of light showing safe routes between distant regions. This is incredible, Yun Bo-Ra whispered. With this information, the Coalition could explore the entire galaxy in a fraction of the time it would normally take. If they can handle the responsibility, Wansu said seriously, some of the regions shown on these maps contain dangers that could threaten all intelligent life. Others contain opportunities that could advance civilization beyond anything currently imaginable. What's the catch? Daeho asked. There's always a catch with offers this good. Wansu smiled, and for the first time his expression seemed hopeful rather than sad. The catch is that you must prove yourselves worthy. The archive will test you, just as it tested us when we first discovered it. Wait, the AI said. You didn't build this place? No, Wansu replied. We found it, just as you have found us. This archive was built by those who came before us, just as we now pass its secrets to those who come after us. The cycle of exploration and discovery continues, as it always has. Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. How many cycles have there been? We do not know, Wansu said, but we hope yours will not be the last. The testing chamber was unlike anything any of them had ever seen. It was a perfectly round room with walls that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. The floor beneath their feet felt solid, but when Daeho looked down, he could see galaxies, spinning slowly in the depths below. This is where the archive decides if you are ready for its knowledge, Wansu explained. The test is different for every species, but it always measures the same things: wisdom, courage, and the ability to work together when facing the unknown. What exactly does the test involve? Kale asked nervously, his wings twitching as he stared at the strange walls. You must navigate through a series of challenges that will test both your individual abilities and your teamwork, Wansu replied. But I cannot tell you more than that. The test adapts to each group that attempts it. What you face will be designed specifically for you. The AI's holographic form flickered with uncertainty. Will I be able to participate? I am not physically present in the same way as the others. The archive recognizes all forms of consciousness, Wansu assured it. You are as much a part of this crew as anyone else. As soon as Wansu finished speaking, the room began to change. The walls shifted and moved, creating passages that led in different directions. The floor beneath them started to glow with symbols that pointed toward various paths. Choose your path, a voice said from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was not Wansu speaking, but something much older and more powerful. But choose wisely. Each path leads to a different challenge, and you must all reach the center together. Daeho looked at the 5 different passages that had appeared. Each one looked completely different from the others. One was bright and welcoming, filled with warm light. Another was dark and mysterious, with shadows that seemed to move on their own. A third passage sparkled with what looked like electrical energy. The fourth seemed to be made entirely of water, somehow held in tunnel shape without walls. The fifth passage looked normal, except that gravity seemed to work sideways in it. We need to split up, Yunbora said, studying the passages. 5 passages, 5 crew members. Each of us takes a different path. That seems dangerous, Kyle protested. What if we get lost? What if the passages don't actually lead to the same place? The test said we must all reach the center together, Telmar pointed out. That suggests the paths do connect, but we may need to help each other along the way. Deho considered the options. His instincts told him that this was exactly the kind of decision the test was designed to evaluate. They could play it safe and all go down one passage together, but that would mean leaving 4 paths unexplored. Or they could take the risk of separating and trust that they would find each other again. We split up, he decided. But we stay in communication. Everyone check in every 5 minutes. If anyone gets into trouble, we regroup immediately. Which path should each of us take? The AI asked. Deho looked at his crew members, thinking about their individual strengths. Kyle, you take the bright passage. Your mathematical mind will be good at analyzing any puzzles you encounter. Yunbora, you take the electrical passage. Your engineering background will help with any technical challenges. Telmar, the water passage is obviously designed for you. And AI, can you handle the sideways gravity passage? You don't have a physical body to be affected by it. I can project my hologram anywhere the ship's sensors can reach, the AI confirmed. Unusual gravity should not affect me. That leaves me with the dark passage, Deho said, looking at the shadowy tunnel with determination. Everyone ready? They entered their respective passages simultaneously. Almost immediately, Deho lost sight of the others as his tunnel curved away into darkness. The shadows seemed to press against him from all sides, not blocking his vision, but making him feel like he was being watched by invisible eyes. After walking for several minutes, he came to a fork in the path. Both directions looked identical, dark tunnels that disappeared into blackness. There were no clues about which way to go. This is Deho checking in, he said into his communicator. I've reached a decision point with no obvious right answer. Kyle here. My passage is full of mathematical puzzles, but they're all solvable if you think about them logically. I'm making steady progress. Yunbora reporting. I'm dealing with some kind of energy maze. I have to reroute power flows to open doors. It's complex but manageable. Telmar here. My passage requires swimming through different chambers with varying current patterns. It feels like home to me. AI checking in. The gravity shifts every few meters, but I'm adapting my holographic projection to compensate. No major problems yet. Deho smiled despite his situation. Each of his crew members was facing challenges that matched their abilities. His own challenge seemed to be about making decisions without enough information. Exactly the kind of thing the archive had said humans were good at. He chose the left passage and continued walking. Soon he encountered another fork, then another. Each time he had to make a choice based on instinct rather than logic. Sometimes he felt like he was going the right way. Sometimes he wasn't sure, but he kept moving forward. After the third check-in, things started to get more interesting. The others began reporting that their passages were connecting with each other. I can see Kale's bright tunnel through a window in my wall, Yunbora reported. He's working on some kind of 3-dimensional equation. I can hear Telmar's water currents from my passage, the AI said. We're definitely getting closer to each other. But Deho's dark passage remained isolated. He continued making choices at each fork, following his instincts and hoping he was heading in the right direction. Then during the 5th check-in, everything changed. I can't move forward, Kale reported, his voice tight with frustration. There's a barrier blocking my path. It has symbols on it, but I can't figure out what they mean. Same here, Yunbora said. My energy maze has led to a locked door with no obvious way to open it. My water passage has become a whirlpool, Telmar added. I cannot swim through it safely. There's a wall in front of me that I cannot project through, the AI reported. It seems to be specifically designed to block my kind of consciousness. Deho realized what was happening. The test had led each of them to a point where their individual skills were not enough. They needed to work together, but they were all in separate passages. "Describe your barriers in detail," he said. "Maybe we can solve this together." As each crew member described their situation, Daeho began to see a pattern. The symbols on Kyle's barrier were mathematical, but they required intuitive leaps rather than pure logic. The lock on Yunbo-Ra's door needed an energy signature that could only be created by combining different power sources. Telmar's whirlpool could be calmed, but only if someone understood the emotional currents underneath the water. The AI's wall blocked artificial consciousness, but might be permeable to combined artificial and organic thought. "I think I understand," Daeho said. "The barriers aren't meant to stop us. They're meant to teach us how to work together even when we're separated." He began talking his crew members through solutions that combined their individual strengths with insights from the others. Kale used mathematical analysis guided by Daeho's intuitive suggestions. Yunbo-Ra solved her technical puzzle with advice from the AI about energy patterns. Telmar calmed her whirlpool by understanding the emotional component that Daeho recognized from human psychology. The AI broke through its barrier by merging its consciousness temporarily with Daeho's human intuition. One by one, the barriers fell. And one by one, the separate passages began to connect. Soon, all 5 crew members were standing together in a central chamber that seemed to contain the heart of the archive itself. "Congratulations," the ancient voice said. "You have passed the first test." "First test?" Daeho asked. "How many tests are there?" "For your species," the voice replied. "There is only one more, but it is the most important test of all." The central chamber was vast and filled with floating islands of light that drifted slowly through the air like glowing continents. Each island contained different types of information: star charts, scientific data, cultural records, and technologies that seemed impossible even by coalition standards. "This is the heart of the archive," the ancient voice explained. "Everything we learned, everything we discovered, everything we achieved is stored here. But to access it, you must pass the final test." "What kind of test?" Daeho asked, though part of him was almost afraid to hear the answer. "You must prove that your species can handle the responsibility that comes with this knowledge. You must show that humans will use what they learn to help others, not just themselves." The floating islands began to move faster, spinning around, the central chamber like planets around a star. As they moved, images began to appear in the air around the crew. The images showed possible futures. What might happen if humans gained access to the archive's knowledge? In some images, humans used the advanced technology to explore distant galaxies, discovering new forms of life and making contact with civilizations beyond anything currently known. They shared their discoveries with other species, creating a golden age of cooperation and advancement. But other images showed darker possibilities: humans using the military technologies to conquer other species, human corporations using advanced manufacturing to control galactic trade, human governments using the information to manipulate other civilizations for their own benefit. Every species that has taken this test has seen similar visions, the voice continued. The question is not whether your species is capable of misusing this power. All species are. The question is whether your species can choose not to misuse it. How do we prove that? Yunbo-Ra asked. By making a choice, the voice replied. You can take all the knowledge in this archive back to your people, or you can take only what your people are ready for, leaving the rest until they have grown wiser. Or you can take nothing at all and walk away knowing what you have chosen to leave behind. The crew stood in silence as the weight of the decision settled on them. This was not just about their own lives or even their own mission. This was about the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy. Can we discuss this among ourselves? Daeho asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. The archive has waited millions of years. It can wait a little longer. The 5 crew members moved to one side of the chamber where they could speak privately. The AI's holographic form flickered as it processed the enormous implications of their choice. The logical choice is to take everything, Kale said, his wings buzzing with nervous energy. The knowledge could solve so many problems: disease, poverty, energy shortages, transportation limitations. How can we choose to leave solutions to these problems unused? But what if we're not ready for those solutions? Telmar asked. What if giving humans access to weapons that can destroy star systems leads to exactly the kind of disasters we saw in those visions? The Nereid have wisdom about this, she continued. When young swimmers first learn to dive into deep water, you do not send them to the deepest trenches immediately. You let them learn gradually, building strength and wisdom with each dive. Yunbora nodded thoughtfully. The history of human technology supports that. Every major technological advance has been used for both good and bad purposes. Nuclear energy gave us clean power, but also nuclear weapons. Genetic engineering cures diseases, but could also be used to create biological weapons. But we're not just talking about human technology, the AI pointed out. We're talking about the combined knowledge of 12 advanced species over millions of years. Surely some of that knowledge is safe to share immediately? Which parts? Deho asked. How do we decide? Are medical advances safe? What about transportation technology? Energy sources? Where do we draw the line? The AI was quiet for a moment, its holographic form dimming as it considered the question. I think the real test is not about what we choose to take. It's about how we make the choice. Explain, Deho said. The archive wants to know if humans can be trusted with power. But trust is not about never making mistakes. Trust is about being willing to accept responsibility for the consequences of your actions. The AI gestured toward the floating islands of knowledge. If we take some of this information back to the Coalition, some humans will misuse it. That's inevitable. But if we choose carefully, if we plan how to share the knowledge gradually and responsibly, if we work with other species to create safeguards and oversight, then maybe the benefits will outweigh the risks. And if we choose wrong? Kale asked. Then we accept responsibility for our mistake and try to fix it, Deho said slowly. That's what humans do. We make decisions with incomplete information, we deal with the consequences, and we try to do better next time. Is that enough? Yunbora wondered. Telmar's water-filled helmet turned toward her. The Nereid saying translates as, "The ocean does not judge the swimmer by whether they reach the shore, but by whether they swim with courage and honor." Perhaps the archive judges us not by whether we choose perfectly, but by whether we choose thoughtfully. They talked for another hour, weighing different options and possibilities. In the end, their decision was unanimous, though it surprised all of them. When they returned to the center of the chamber, Deho spoke for the group. We want to take some of the knowledge, but not all of it. And we want to share what we take with the entire Coalition, not just with humans. Interesting choice, the ancient voice said. Explain your reasoning. Humans are good at exploration and taking risks, Deho continued, but we're not good at everything. The Kelthera are better at careful analysis. The Moravians are better at long-term planning. The Zephyri are better at mathematical precision. If we're going to use this knowledge responsibly, we need all of those perspectives. We propose taking the medical advances first, Yunbora added. Technologies that can cure diseases and extend healthy lifespans. These seem least likely to be misused and most likely to benefit everyone. We also want the basic exploration technologies, Kyle said. Better sensors, improved life support systems, more efficient engines, things that will help all species explore more safely. And we want the star charts, Telmar said. Not the ones showing dangerous regions or advanced civilizations, but the ones showing empty systems that could be safely explored. We want to earn the right to access the more dangerous knowledge by proving we can handle the safer knowledge responsibly. The AI's hologram brightened. Most importantly, we want to establish a partnership between the Coalition and any surviving members of the Umbral Collective. You have experience that we lack. We have energy and enthusiasm that you've lost. Together, we might achieve more than either group could alone. The chamber fell silent for a long time. The floating islands of knowledge continued their slow dance through the air while the ancient voice considered their proposal. Finally, the voice spoke again. Your choice shows wisdom beyond your years as a spacefaring species. The Umbral Collective accepts your proposal. Light blazed throughout the chamber as selected pieces of knowledge began transferring to the Eternal Dawn's computer systems. But it was not just data that was being transferred. Keeper Wan Su appeared in the chamber, his holographic form more solid and real than before. I will come with you, he said with the first genuine smile they had seen from him. Someone should be there to help the Coalition understand what they are receiving. And perhaps, working with your people, we can remember what it feels like. To explore with wonder instead of caution. 6 months later, Admiral Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the flagship New Dawn, watching as a fleet of human and alien ships prepared for humanity's first deep space exploration mission. The ships were built using Umbral technology, but operated by mixed crews from all Coalition species. The Eternal Dawn's AI, now called Dawn by the crew, served as the fleet coordinator. It had grown and learned from its partnership with human, intuition and alien expertise, becoming something new, a bridge between organic and artificial consciousness. Ready for departure, Admiral, Captain Kim Hae-won reported from the second ship in the formation. All ships, this is Admiral Lee, Daeho announced over the fleet communication system. We are about to begin humanity's greatest adventure. We go not as conquerors or even as leaders, but as partners in the greatest collaboration this galaxy has ever seen. Let's show the universe what we can accomplish when different species work together toward common goals. As the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward regions of space that no Coalition ship had ever visited, Daeho felt the same thrill he had experienced when he first sat in the Eternal Dawn's pilot chair. But now that thrill was shared by hundreds of crew members from dozens of species, all working together to push the boundaries of the known universe. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. And for the first time in millions of years, it was being explored by beings who had remembered how to dream.